On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk FTC fines Ring, Lightline lighting products, and Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
This is ResiWeek, episode 384, AppleVision. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matthew Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by two of my longtime friends. First, we have Amanda Wildman. She is the co-owner of TruMedia Home out in Michigan. How you doing, Amanda?
I am doing great. Joining you from a job site, so bear with me if you hear any like loud noise or anything like that. I'm out in the car, but on a job site. So excited to be here, though. As always, love to chat with you, Matt.
Hey, at least one of us is working today. The other gentleman that is joining us is Ian Bryant. He's the operations manager and project manager for Premiere SAV out of Jackson Hole. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing great, Matt. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me back.
He's very excited on a Monday.
It's very, very, very exciting.
I know his tone doesn't show it, but he is pumped to be here. All right, we're going to kick this off. This is airing on a Wednesday morning, or going live Wednesday morning, which means the ribbon cutting for InfoComm 2023 has kicked off. We're not covering any direct stories yet because it hasn't started when we recorded it. But it will be a great show. We have some AVNation people on the ground, so you can go to our portal and check out all the coverage from the show. I'll just do kind of a quick blanket statement to the both of you, or blanket question to the both of you on this. Are you excited for any potential news coming out of InfoComm this year? Something maybe even just as simple as, hey, we're going to actually ship some of the products that we're marketing. Which is still not happening. That is my future cast for Wednesday. But is there anything any rumblings you're hearing that are exciting either of you? Or is this, another kind of wait and see year?
I'm excited because I'm seeing everybody, kind of like all my friends, like head on over there. So I'm excited with what they're going to bring back, and I'm watching, what's going on, but I don't have anything specific. Other than the fact that I'm just curious to see with some of this new stuff we'll talk about later with Apple, how that's going to work with the InfoComm or like the video conferencing and different things like that. So that's about it. That's pretty much the only thing that kind of touches me right now is the video conferencing type stuff. So always looking for innovations in that.
That's true. Ian, anything? Or you don't care?
No, of course I care. We do some commercial work up here in Wyoming, but I think that it's funny. Before you even said it, the first thought that came in my mind was, who's going to be shipping product? And so I'm curious to hear. I think that's going to be asked by probably 75% of people there are going to go to their sales reps and say, so are you actually going to ship this to me? And then they're going to get tired of it. But, that's what happens. I'd like to see some really nice, big, innovative announcements come out. I'd hope to see that maybe some manufacturers are pushing some boundaries. So we'll see maybe some new digital art products. I don't know, video technology, something cool.
It'll be interesting to see. I've heard a couple rumors. I've seen a couple things that I can't talk about yet. Nothing is blowing me away yet. There was some early acquisition news that it doesn't affect either of you, but one of the big distributors up here in Canada was just acquired by Midwich, which is cool for SFM and all the people over there. But again, that doesn't directly target our market, although SFM does have a small footprint in the the residential integration space. Notwithstanding, it will be interesting to see what else comes down the pipe. So we'll probably cover a lot of that next week. All right, let's kick off some actual stories today. This comes to us from CE Pro. The FTC has accused Ring of illegal surveillance and proposes $5.8 million in refunds that possibly will hit consumers or just get tied up by the FTC. Maybe. Love to say that we'll see it, but we won't. No one will see it. So this essentially boils down to Ring's security was, shall we say, lax. That works, right, Ian? Are you comfortable with lacking or a little lax? What a lot of the articles written about this kind of imply is that it was external hacking, which I have not yet seen any real reports stating that. The majority of it was by employees of said companies who were bypassing some potentially outdated security issues within the system to, again, get into some stuff. And also, there have been a couple of brute force things going on, but nothing too crazy. Amanda, let me start with you on this. I don't want to say that Ring is not known for having amazing security. Most people, most consumers just look at Ring and go, oh, they've got to be good because it's Amazon. Does this erode any consumer confidence? Or heck, will consumers even see this not only the CE Pro article, but any article about this? Or will this just get brushed under the rug?
I think they're going to pay the fine. It's going to get brushed under the rug. And, they're just going to kind of go on happy-go-lucky. And people are used to the convenience, of easy plug-in doorbell, easy, do-it-yourself, kind of a thing. And I think that that's where our industry, we really need to do a good job of shining, of saying, look, we may be using some of these products, but this is how we're using them. And this is the trade-off that you're paying for that convenience, and making people aware. Because when they're just buying a product from like a big box store or whatever, they're just going home, they're plugging it in, they aren't thinking about it. They aren't thinking about the security. They aren't thinking about the passwords. They aren't thinking about, any of that kind of stuff. So I think if we're smart as an industry, like we use something like this to our advantage, of a selling point of why you work with an integrator. Why do you work with a professional to set these type of products up in your home and to be educated about it? It's scary. Earlier today, I was literally just talking with an very close adjacent industry to ours, an electrician, and they're like, oh yeah, well, we're tinkering with doing this and doing that. And I'm like, cool. Where are you guys getting any training, or where are you getting any education? And like, neither one of them have gone to any continuing education, podcasts, training, classes, anything in like 5 years since they've gotten their journeyman, And it's like, that to me is a little bit more nerve-wracking. And I think it's just an opportunity for integrators to kind of say, this is, how we set ourselves apart. We're looking out for those things for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ian, before I get to you, I want to just throw this fun stat in there, because there's a quote in the article that likely is coming from someone at the FTC, stating that this will show that their disregard and for security makes it clear that putting profit over privacy doesn't pay, and it's a $5.8 million judgment. I'm somewhat unclear on how the FTC deals with this, but notwithstanding, the estimated global sales for Ring.com in the US, global sales in US dollars was $663 million last year. So I'm sure the 5.8 mil is really going to put a huge dent in that and show them how it doesn't pay. But my question for you, Ian, is we've known in our community, we've known this fact, that Ring is not the most secure product on the market, that the majority of these consumer tech products are not. Do we have any control or any influence over those manufacturers to encourage them to increase some security. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones who are putting them in and having to explain what limitations there may be in these products for consumers.
No. I mean, didn't want to answer
a good
that
leading question.
I mean, the problem is, there's a couple of
Put
problems.
some pressure on him, Ian. Come on.
So we have a couple issues. One is there really isn't much of another option out there, right? I mean, if you talk about ease, not just, we could easily do cameras as far as integrators and custom integration and luxury integration. We can do cameras. We can do all kinds of stuff. We could put together something, but for the ease of use with the apps and multiple sites and multiple homes and everything, it just like we're kind of, using them because of how easy it is for the consumer to operate and implement. And we can easily, as a unified voice, put some pressure on some of these manufacturers, maybe through Cedia or other channels, and try to tell them that, hey, they need to make changes. These are multi-billion-dollar companies. Putting profits over privacy is something that is unfortunately not. It's not something that it's very important to them as far as thinking about doing privacy first. We've seen it in the past. You talked about other. It's not just direct to consumer, just technology providers providing these simple solutions will take small shortcuts, think it's not a big deal, like utilizing old SSH protocols in their products, just because implementing the newer protocols requires writing a lot more code, or implementing subcontracting out more hours and things like that. And it's easy to go and go with the older solution. Unfortunately, is liable to be hacked from really anywhere. So I don't know. Right now, I think we're kind of at just wait, and hopefully we'll see if the FTC maybe starts to cut back further. I think what I was thinking when you were making that comment around 5.8 million in fines over the however many hundreds of million they make in revenue per year. I don't feel like that's going far enough to show the world that we mean business on, hey, we really need to protect consumers. I don't know if maybe the European Union and they need to look and see if they violated any GDPR regulations to make any further fines. And I also don't think that in Amazon's to defend them, I don't think it makes sense for the FTC to just pick on them and not go after the hundreds and hundreds of other manufacturers and software providers for using outdated security protocols. Like, if they're going to start if the FTC is going to start doing investigations and start handing out fines, they need to be consistent with everyone. Is kind of the point I'm trying to get at. So whether or not we'll see that.
And I'd argue that they will. Yeah, I would assume they will. Amazon is obviously the big fish. You can set the example, but also recognizing that Amazon can pay that.
Yeah.
Google can probably pay that if they are in the same boat. We don't know that they are. We're making general assumptions here. But there's going to be a boatload of smaller companies that, even if they were to go after them, they won't have any money to pay because they're fledgling in that space.
Well, then maybe those smaller companies will be the ones that make the changes to be more secure first. Set the bar higher for everyone else.
Do you think that they're going to get pressure from the partners that they have, like LiftMaster, the garage door company, right? They're not going to want to be tied in, with this, but now that you can tie in your LiftMaster with the Ring app and that kind of thing, if these adjacent other companies start getting tied in, they might start putting some pressure back and be like, we don't like to get called into all this crap either.
I would argue that they're still the big fish in the pond, though. So as big as LiftMaster is, and again, I don't know the numbers. I'm just guessing here. They don't have the numbers. They'd be punching well above their weight class to get into that fight, as with every other integration partner, because again, it's stinking Amazon. So hope to see it, and we've done our part here. So Raise the flag. Let's go. All right. Let's change topics. As our lovely producer Mitchell said, for once, we're actually going to throw some Canadian content in here to maintain the fallacy that is Canadian content laws. Mitchell, I believe it's 33% of every episode legally would have to be Canadian content to.
We talk enough about you, Matt.
There's 3 of us here, and I am Canadian, thus Canadian content, no problem. All right. Lightline, a Canadian lighting fixture leader, has targeted the integration channel. Lightline is Canada's largest lighting fixture manufacturer, I believe specifically in the recessed lighting space. They were out at Lightapalooza this past February in Phoenix, showing all of their wares and all of their stuff to our industry. Read through the article. It covers a really interesting aspect of how tough it was for them as a electrical distribution partner company, right? That's how they distribute in Canada. That's how all of these companies work in the US typically as well. How hard of a time they had getting into the electrical space in the US. And then it gets into covering some of the really cool recessed intelligent downlights, etc. Some very, very cool stuff. So go check that out. Ian, let me start with you on this. We are seeing more and more companies. Lightline's been around for years. I've known of them for quite a long time. They are just starting down the vein of intelligent lighting, low voltage lighting, etc. We're seeing more and more companies from traditional, the traditional lighting space moving in that direction, or at least adding a vertical to that. What does that mean for us as integrators, as well as the way we as integrators relate or have working relationships with our electricians?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to lead with was I think it depends on your region that you're in and your ability to sell and spec lighting fixtures. You know, where we are in Jackson Hole is a tiny community, and if we start really pushing hard on lighting fixtures directly to our builders or our customers, we're going to rub some shoulders with the electrical contractors that we're trying to be friendly with. And being such a small area, it's not, for us, is not really a risk that we want to start taking. If we are asked by our builder or if we're asked by the customer to get involved, we'd be more than happy to. And I'm really excited to see this brand Lightline start to push further to our channel and make it easier and more available for us. But I think depending on your region and depending on who you're working with, it's really going to depend on if the integrator is able to expand it or if they want to take that strategic decision to that fight. Because as we all know, over the past decade or more, we've been kind of, and no one knows this more than Amanda, but the areas are starting to blend together. We are starting to merge into their market, and electricians are starting to merge into our market. And this just does add that availability for us to get lighting products like this at a good margin and make it a lot easier as you're starting to blend those lines. And so I know it's kind of I don't know the answer you want, but I would say it's definitely a strategic per integrator decision that has to be made on what you think is going to work for your company. But the opportunity is absolutely there, and I love it.
Surprisingly enough, that's exactly the answer I wanted, because that's the way I feel about this. And I have poked the bear at some of these events multiple times for implying just that opinion. Amanda, I've actually been dealing with this with one of my customers to Ian's point. And we do all of their tech, but they wanted to update some outdoor downlights. They called an electrician friend. He came over, tried to sell them some quote unquote intelligent lights. It's not a huge house, but it's large enough that those intelligent downlights didn't work over Bluetooth because of Bluetooth's limitations, which shocks no one who understands how Bluetooth works. and they were frustrated. They came to us. We came back with a solution that was, shockingly enough, a significantly higher investment than what their electrician had sent them. Is that right there the dividing line for how integrators can get into, the lighting aspect, is by going after those, I don't want to say expensive, but that separate line, that line that the electricians don't want to mess with because it's expensive, it's complicated, it's funky. They don't want to play. They just want to sell their $50 dome light and or pancake or whatever it is in your space and get on to the next home wire.
I think absolutely that's what electricians generally want to do. They, they're okay with putting up the fixtures, although they complain all the time with the ones that the designers pick out because they have to assemble them and put them together, and they don't like that. And they don't like messing with, the moment you say that something has to be programmed or it's intelligent, like lighting, they want nothing generally to do with it. So like for me and my company, like 3 years ago, we added an electrical division. So like I was very excited when I saw Lightline, and I believe that they are in most of the tech summits as well as Lightapalooza, the CEDIA tech summits, because that is where I saw them. And I did see some fixtures that I really liked. I think as both of these worlds are kind of blending together, the electrical and the low voltage, I think that it's important for integrators to stay up on what's available and be there in the ready. Because I don't think that unless you're going to open up an electrical division like what we did with our company, you still want to play nice with those electricians that you have relationships with, which I still, like part of my company, there's a good chunk of us where we just partner with some electricians on certain projects. But there's a few, where we take over that side of it. But when you build that good relationship and you can be that trusted partner, we've had electricians call us before and they're like, look, we can't find a fixture for this. And it's starting to become known that even these larger lighting companies have kind of like a CI channel. So what's interesting is if availability for the electrical industry is like on back order, sometimes you can get it through the CI channel, which has been an interesting kind of like change of events. And for whatever reason, just because we do, I feel like so many tech summits and so many shows. And like I had mentioned earlier about how our industry is always up on trying to keep up on the education, I don't see that same thing happening necessarily in the electrical world. Generally, they're only hearing about whatever their electrical house is telling them about after the rep visited the electrical house. So they don't see as much new stuff as often as what we do. So I think it's really important for us to be a resource. And I think a company like this, like I mentioned to you, I found actually 2 different fixtures from them when I was at the Tech Summit that I was really excited about, that I know when I bring those to my area and my market, like no other electrician is bringing those to my market. So that will like help me to be able to stand out. And even the electricians that I partner with, it's going to make their projects look a little bit better, look a little bit cooler, when I spec those kind of projects or products in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's very interesting to watch. All right, let's hit our last story real quickly, just because it's going to make Ian be super happy. This comes to us from Residential Tech today. There was more than AppleVision Pro news at the Worldwide Developers Conference that Apple held last Monday at their headquarters out in Cupertino. Amanda, Michael gives a really good overview of a couple of things without touching too much on the AppleVision Pro, which I know is depressing Mitchell immensely because that's all he wanted me to talk about today. But the one thing that kicked that I saw that made me kind of go, oh, well, that's interesting. And also about dang time. FaceTime and video conferencing is now going to be available on the Apple TV 4K. What that means is you'll be able to use your iPhone the same way you can use it on Mac or on iPad as your secondary or as your camera. You can set it up, it'll wirelessly connect, and you've got an instant phenomenal webcam. But you'll be able to use that paired with an Apple TV to use your display and FaceTime and do all those fun things directly on the massive screen that is in your living room or master bedroom or wherever. Is this something that A, will be used extensively by the majority of our customers, and B, how quickly till customers use this in a seemingly, or I'm going to guesstimate that this will be a seamless process. How quickly are they going to come to us and say, why is my boardroom such a pain in the butt?
A lot of it's going to come down to us educating them. So that's going to be how fast it rolls out, is how fast we show them and how fast we teach them. I am probably most excited about it because I think about, as a parent, and I'm sure you have this, Matt, too, is if your parents are ever FaceTiming like your kids, right? And all three of your kids are, on the screen, and your parents, for whatever reason, they're both crowded around your phone trying to FaceTime your kids, and they can't see it or what's going on or, whatever, I think it's going to be so exciting for all of those people. Like, I just think of that, like having a bigger screen to be able to see like the whole family, to be able to gather more people, and just have it easier to use. That is actually the part that I'm most excited about, which I know sounds crazy, but I love getting together, even virtually, like with my friends. And over COVID lockdown, I remember doing it from, like my Mac, right? We would have all of those, Friday night AV, everybody would kind of get together and we'd chat about what was going on, but you're still looking at it on a small PC, like your Apple screen. Yeah. To be able to throw that up on a TV, to be able to sit back and just be able to chat with people, I really like that concept, and I'm actually really excited about it.
That's a good point. All right, Ian, bring this home for us. Which one are you most excited for? Video conferencing on it.
Which one am I most excited for?
Let me finish.
Okay.
Video conferencing on an Apple TV. Oh my gosh. Or a Vision Pro headset.
Thanks for teeing me up. Yeah, like I mentioned to you earlier, I was just listening. I just had when I was reading this article, I had Michael Heiss's voice playing in my head, and him being so upset about this is just, I cannot wait to talk to him further. But I kind of felt the same way. Like I mentioned, there was another article in Wired magazine. They kind of felt very similar, that the Apple Provision was kind of just a dump from Apple. Like, there are many other VR headsets out on the market that do almost the exact same thing. The only difference is that Apple pairs with Apple iOS, and it gives you a couple features like using hand gestures and eye motion, but a lot of the other manufacturers are getting close to that as well. I think everyone was hoping that when Apple came out with their first headset, that it was going to be revolutionary, like a pair of glasses with no wires, or something that we've been looking at for a long time, like contact lenses, or something that was just going to blow everyone away. And this just seemed to be kind of a turd. Sorry to say it, but like, it wasn't revolutionary like they've been in the past. And so for me, yeah, I think the video conferencing on the Apple TV 4K, I'm already envisioning a lot of manufacturers coming out with iPhone docks and stands to sit on or on top of or next to your TV. Like, that's going to be all over CES next year. And then some of the other stuff, the new support for Dolby Vision 8.1, the new enhancements for the AirPods. There was a lot of stuff at the developer conference. The new 15-inch MacBook Air with the Pro chip, the new Pro chip. A lot of cool stuff. So I'm in agreement with Mike and Wired Magazine and everyone else saying I just don't think, I think they flopped. I think maybe in 3 revisions, the Vision Pro 3s will probably be pretty cool, and I'll fork out the thousands of dollars to get them. But for right now, I'll pass.
See, and I will take my love for a lovely rounded ski goggle to the next level and say, this looks great. I've already got essentially 4 pairs of these just with no screens in them. So granted, mine weren't $3,400.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's wrap it. Let's wrap it there. What I really should have asked you is, what do you like better, video conferencing on the Apple TV or the Vision Pro, and tell me why it's the Vision Pro. That's how I should have properly asked that question. But
hey, before you boot us, though, I will say, keep in mind that the Apple TV 4K, I don't think we're gonna see this translating into our custom, or like our commercial customers' projects. This is going to be utilized by our residential customers for personal purposes. I think eventually Apple's going to try to maybe get into that, but they're going to have to support third-party other codecs and devices and stuff like that. But it is a step in an interesting direction.
I think it won't have the same penetration or disruptive force as the iPad did in terms of like control panels. But I will be very curious to see how easily you can run a call and transfer it to your Apple TV and what that quality looks like. Because if it can beat the $1,000, conference bar from any manufacturer you want to really throw out there in terms of ease of use, picture quality, and mic pickup, that will be an interesting conversation, because there will be a ton of startups and, SMB clients that every time you go to quote any of the big brands from our space, their bars and their cameras, you'll get but we can just use a phone that we already have and hook it up. And be like, yeah, you can.
Well, and if they're used to using it at home.
Yep.
If they learn how to use it at home first, or their kids are doing it on all the Apple products at home first, it's going to translate to work very differently.
We still have corporate clients that say, I just want an Apple TV to AirPlay to. And it doesn't matter how much you show them better products. Like, yeah, but it's easy. It works. I don't care. So, all right, let's leave it there. Ian, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Premiere SAV out in Jackson, how can they do that?
They can go to our website, PremiereSAV.com, and that's PREMIERE.SAV.com. And hit me up, email ian.bryant@PremiereSAV.com.
Excellent. Thank you, my friend. Amanda, thank you for joining us from the car. If people want to connect with you, learn more about TruMedia Home, where can they do that?
Just search TruMedia Home on anything. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, your favorite, TikTok, wherever. I'm there.
Stop it.
It's fun. Come on. It's okay.
Social media queen.
It's okay.
No, it's not. All right. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and most other social platforms. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.